You ever sit down to meditate and your brain is just everywhere? You're thinking, am I even doing this right? Yeah, that's a super common feeling. But what if I told you the problem isn't you? What if it's the type of meditation you're doing? All right, let's get into it.
See, meditation isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. Using the wrong practice for what you're trying to achieve, well, it's like trying to build massive biceps by running a marathon. It's just not going to work. But here's the cool part. The science gives us a roadmap. Once you understand just a little bit about how your brain is wired, you can pick the perfect tool for the job every single time.
So, here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with how your brain sees the world. Turns out there are two main ways. Then we'll look at why a wandering mind is actually kind of a problem for our happiness. And from there, we'll get super practical with a science-backed way to train focus, steer your mood with your breath, and even figure out what to do when you need to sleep. Let's go!
Okay, section 2, your brain's two worlds. So to really get meditation, we got to start with the science of perception. Your brain is basically switching back and forth all day long between two completely different ways of seeing reality. First up, we have what's called interoception. This is basically your brain's perception of everything happening inside your body, from your skin inward. Think about your heartbeat, the feeling of air filling your lungs, maybe that rumble in your stomach. That's all interoception. And there's specific parts of your brain, like the anterior cingulate cortex and the insula, that are constantly mapping this internal world. And then you've got the opposite, exteroception. This is everything happening outside the confines of your skin. Sights, sounds, the space you're in, that's all exteroception. And get this, just your sense of vision alone uses up something like 40% of your brain's real estate. So yeah, this outward-facing mode is a huge deal.
A really great way to think about this is like a spotlight. You can point that spotlight inward, right? Maybe close your eyes, focus on your breath. That's your brain in interoceptive mode. Or you can aim that spotlight outward, eyes open, noticing the sights and sounds around you. That's exteroceptive mode. And really, all a meditation practice is you consciously deciding where you're going to point that spotlight. So why does any of this matter? What's the big deal about where we point the spotlight? Well, here's the thing. When we're not deliberately pointing it somewhere, our brain just flips on autopilot. Neuroscientists have a name for this, the default mode network. And honestly, that's where a lot of our trouble begins. This brings us to a really famous study from Harvard researchers Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Gilbert. And they put it bluntly, They said, a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. No mincing words there. They drew a straight, scientific line connecting where our attention is to how happy we feel. And the number they found is just wild. They discovered that our minds are wandering about 47% of the time. Think about that. That's almost half of our entire waking life, that we're not actually present for what we're doing. It doesn't matter what the activity is. Our mind is just gone. And this is the key takeaway from their research. It turns out what you're thinking about is a way better predictor of your happiness than what you're actually doing. People were less happy when their minds were wandering, even if they were daydreaming about something pleasant. That's incredible. It all comes down to this, being present, right here, right now. That seems to be a huge ingredient for happiness.
All right, so if being present is the goal, how do we get better at it? How do we train that focus muscle? Well, this is where the science gives us a really practical, but maybe kind of counterintuitive path forward.
It all comes down to this simple idea. Friction equals brain change. You see, your brain doesn't bother to rewire itself, what scientists call neuroplasticity, unless it's challenged. So if your meditation practice feels super easy and effortless, it's probably not doing much. That feeling of difficulty, that little bit of struggle, that's the signal that your brain is actually learning, adapting, and getting stronger. So here's the super simple two-step protocol you can use. Step 1. Just assess your bias. Before you sit down, just ask yourself, where am I right now? Am I stuck in my head, just lost in thought? That's that interoceptive bias. Or am I totally scattered, distracted by everything going on around me? That's the exteroceptive bias. And then step 2 is just train the opposite. If you're stuck inward, meditate with your eyes open, focusing on one single spot in front of you. And if your attention is scattered everywhere outside of you, do the opposite. Close your eyes and bring that spotlight of perception inward to your breath. And please remember this because it's so important. The real training here isn't about achieving some state of perfect, unbroken focus. That's not the goal. The real work, the actual rep for your brain, is the moment you notice your mind has wandered and you gently guide it back.
Every single time you do that, you're strengthening those focus circuits. That's the win.
Okay, so now we can add another powerful layer to this, your breath. Think of your breath as the steering wheel for your entire nervous system. It's the most direct, hands-on tool you have to shift your state between being alert and being calm. And the rule here is so simple. It's just straight physiology. If you want more alertness, you make your inhales longer or more vigorous than your exhales. That wakes your system up. If you want more calm, you do the opposite. Make your exhales longer, slower, more deliberate than your inhales. That tells your body it's time to chill out. All right, let's talk about sleep. This is a big one. A lot of us try to use meditation to fall asleep. But it turns out the science points to a different tool that's actually way more effective for getting true rest and recovery. Here's why. Remember, meditation is a practice of focus and refocus that actually activates your prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of your brain. And that's the exact opposite of what you want when you're trying to sleep. You need to turn that thing down. That's where practices like non-sleep deep rest, or NSDR, come in. They're specifically designed to help you defocus, to relax, and to guide your brain gently towards sleep. So think of it this way. Meditation is for training your brain during the day. NSDR is for resting it at night. And the science behind NSDR is pretty amazing. These protocols are shown to do things like significantly lower your levels of the stress hormone cortisol. They can help replenish dopamine, which makes you feel more restored and motivated. And you can use them anytime, really. Before bed, if you wake up in the middle of the night, or even during the day to try and offset a bad night's sleep. So let's kind of zoom out for a second and bring this all together. The big picture goal here isn't just to change how you feel in the moment, your state. It's about changing who you are over time, your traits. This is a really powerful idea from researchers like Daniel Goleman and Richard Davidson. Ultimately, the power is in your hands. Just by understanding that difference between your internal and external worlds, and by deliberately training against your brain's natural tendency in the moment, you are literally building a better brain. You're not just going through the motions, you are actively reshaping your neural circuits. So the next time you sit down to practice, don't just pull up some random recording and ask, what should I do? Instead, ask your brain, what do you need right now? Are you scattered? Are you stuck in your head? And then choose your practice based on that. That's how you move from just meditating to meditating effectively.